our town, Blair, Nebraska, USA. Yes, this is our town, a crossroads of America, the home of Dana College. Pioneers of the United Evangelical Lutheran Church founded the college in 1884 as Trinity Seminary. It later expanded when Dana College was established as a separate institution in 1889. The college's new library was just completed in 1952. It has one of the best lighted college reading rooms in the state. Students find very adequate information for classes, for pleasure reading, or whatever purpose they desire. The faculty seeks to counsel and assist each student individually with his academic program, study habits, social and personal relationships. Every endeavor is made to make his college years successful and happy. The close friendship and individual guidance impossible at larger institutions is extended to each student at Dana. The librarian, Miss Hoydall, is always ready to give help in choosing and finding the books that are needed. Recognizing the need of every generation for intelligent men and women, the college seeks to guide its students in attaining and developing Christian living as expressed in its objectives. Devotion to home, church, and country, effective lay and ordained leadership in the church, active interest in affairs of state and society. These are the qualities that Dana cultivates in its students. Living on these lovely grounds, Dana students may relax and learn. Old Main is the original college building. It dates back to 1866. Although the college has expanded, this building still houses the music, science, and business departments. Comparable with the durability of Old Main is the strong ties of friendships formed at Dana. On the building's top floor, Professor Frank Hengveld runs the soil testing service which he designed and developed. This laboratory offers farmers around Blair techniques and procedures in soil analysis identical to those used at the Nebraska College of Agriculture. Such testing is an integral part of soil improvement and conservation programs in progress all over America, retrieving soils that have been misused by poor farming methods and preserving the fertility of carefully used soils such as those around Blair. Fertile soil is part of America's wealth. Here in the heart of the farming country, good soil produces food unequaled almost anywhere else in the world. But the foods draw minerals and organic matter from the soil. These must be replaced if the crops are to continue to be as rich and bountiful. To do this wisely and well, expert advice is needed. That's what Professor Hengveld offers farmers of this area. He has already tested over 16,000 acres of farmland in Washington County. Nowhere in the country have farmers entered so enthusiastically into the soil conservation program. During the 1930s, two of the greatest tragedies of waste in the history of the world served to warn the people of America that this rich continent could become a land of starvation and want. The farmers here are taking every precaution to make sure that this does not happen again. Their rich land produces grain for the table, feed for livestock, and the abundant pasture lands where the cattle wander, growing fat and sleek. Such land is worth caring for and preserving with all the patience and work these farmers can give it. This was one of the first soil conservation districts organized in the state of Nebraska. Just driving through on the highways, you can see evidence of the work that has been done here. Terracing, contour plowing to keep the soil on the slopes, erosion control structures, drainage ditches, windbreaks and waterways. Everywhere are the marks of sound conservation practices. Blair is well aware of the debt it owes its farmers. They have played, and we hope will continue to play, an important part in our town's growth and development. Blair offers farmers farm supplies and machines. Although most farmers can make minor repairs themselves, they bring their equipment to town regularly for expert attention. After servicing or new delivery, the tractors go to the farms where they do the hard, labor-saving, versatile work for which they were designed. This is the kind of mechanical assistance that has made American farming the most efficient in the world. The cat and low dozer play an important part in helping the farmer in his soil conservation work. One of the businesses in Blair whose primary job is to serve the farmers is Tyson and Company. Ned Tyson started supplying farm implements in 1935. He is Blair's agent for the John Deere Company. Ned makes sure that every shipment of disc harrows or other implements he receives are in perfect condition according to the highest standards of that company. He, like all the citizens of our town, is always ready to serve his friends and customers, the farmers, in any way possible. Howard Cuby, Ned Tyson's partner, shows Bernard Paulson a hammer mill that will grind grain and corn for Paulson's Poland China hogs. Feeding is no problem for these beautiful black Angus cattle pasturing at Morgan Rasmussen's farm. Cattle have grazed on this land for 56 years, ever since Rasmussen's father brought the first beeves here to feed. His grandfather homesteaded on the land when it opened up in the 1870s. His grandmother can tell tales of the Indians who wandered here. They were part of the Omaha and Pawnee tribes, whose burial grounds lay along the bluffs overlooking the Missouri River. When she first came here, Blair was nothing but prairie country. These rolling hills were once covered with prairie grass, stretching as far as the eye could see. Only a few straggling trees along the many streams grew here. The homesteaders who settled the land brought trees with them for windbreaks, summer coolness, and to hold the soil fast. Rasmussen follows the tradition of his forebears, keeping his land good, rotating his crops to make it fertile. His main interest is raising and feeding beef. He raises and feeds 400 to 500 every year, just like this fat steer. This unusually curious fellow seems to be bawling out a loud protest over being disturbed, or maybe he's just trying to get better acquainted. The main products of Washington County are fine corn and pasture-fed livestock, beeves and hogs. Like Rasmussen, the majority of farmers raise grain, grass and corn, mostly for feed. This year, Rasmussen raises mostly grass and oats. He's been giving the land a rest from corn. Son David is now in the armed forces in Germany, and Roland is going soon. The Rasmussens, Morgan's dad, Morgan, and the boys invented this new type of feeder, which they installed several years ago. It's the first concrete feed bunk for cattle as far as they know. David, who is quite a mechanic, worked out the principle. The cart is filled by chute in the barn, then rolls down the concrete track, dumping corn as it goes. Around the feeder, a concrete flooring provides sure footing for cattle in any weather. The feeder is open to the pasture land, and the Herefords and Angus come in freely when they get hungry for corn. Since the Rasmussens invented it, the feeder has become famous. Now you can find replicas of this feeder all over Nebraska and Iowa, for the Rasmussens have freely described the principle to anyone who wanted to build one. Over $7 million worth of livestock, mostly beef cattle and hogs, are sold from Washington County yearly, making the biggest revenue of the farmers. The field crops sold value $2 to $3 million. Most of the grain and grass raised stays right here to feed livestock. Millions of years ago, slow-moving glaciers left a firm substratum in this area which holds water well. Through the centuries, winds and sluggish streams laid the loess covering that provides fertile soil. The loess lies in vertical strata, which has unusual capillary properties, pushing water up constantly, enabling crops to grow well here on the hills. Roland Rasmussen is a leader in the Spiker 4-H Livestock Club. One of his most important jobs this year is teaching other 4-H boys how to raise and handle show cattle. This is Danny's first year in 4-H, and he's really doing very well. Roland has been outstanding in 4-H club work for many years. Over a period of 11 years, he has made a total net profit of $9,000 on the calves he has raised. Ronald and Janice Stork are raising these Herefords, which they plan on showing at the Fremont Fair. 10-year-old Roger has charge of 2 of these baby beeves. Ronald and Everett show off their best-looking calves. Everett leads the Orrin Feeders Club, whose members try to raise this stocky, low-set type of cattle. He teaches and helps the boys, who will be tomorrow's farmers according to the 4-H code, to make the best better, to transmit this nation to prosperity, not merely as we found it, but freer, happier, and more beautiful than it was transmitted to us. "58 4-H clubs flourish in Washington County. 28 of them are devoted to livestock and agricultural engineering. Baby beef is the biggest project, swine raising being next. Dairy cattle ranks third. Altogether, 171 boys and 268 girls work on 709 projects. Verna Stork, Everett's wife, is a leader in the Orrin Home Economics Project of 4-H. And one of these days, little Susie will be joining in on the baking and sewing. Although poultry is not one of the primary products of farms here, most farmers keep some chickens for eating and eggs. The Storks let theirs run on an open range. This is more sanitary than the usual closed run. Their chickens are less subject to disease and poor health than those kept in a closed coop. The range is changed from time to time by pulling up the wooden stakes to which the wire fencing is attached. The farmers around Blair do most of their own woodwork and carpentering. Keeping their farm buildings in repair, building chicken coops, corn cribs, pig pens, and fences is just part of their usual work. Not so long ago, they hewed and split their own logs. Now, they usually drive into Blair for their lumber. That's why the Christensen Lumber Company is a favorite spot with farmers. Carl Christensen and his son Robert not only sell lumber but help farmers with advice culled from practical experience on the farm as well as years in the lumber business. Carl came here from Denmark, at first for adventure. He was 19 years old then, but he found so many good things here that he decided to stay and make his home. Ed Nielsen has been with Carl for 26 years. He came to the United States in 1910 from Denmark also. During the first 15 years here, he worked on a farm. Many of Blair's citizens are from Denmark or of Danish descent. Homes like these have been built for everyday living and convenience, as well as beauty. No town anywhere can offer more in modern design and construction. This is a town of families, with plenty of space for children to run and play without the restraints imposed by city traffic. The Bose home is a fine example of modern architecture and design at its best. Boys love to play over its beautiful lawn among the shade trees. Blair people have proudly called their city a city of trees. Mayor Roy Hansen's new home is just another of the many being built in Blair. Mayor Hansen presides at council meetings twice a month. These govern the city. Meetings open with City Clerk L.W. Spengard reading the minutes on the last meeting. Since 1931, the Municipal Light Fund of Blair has paid out over $200,000 for city improvements, including the swimming pool. Ray Hansen listens to the reading of the minutes attentively. Frank Hammond of the Kelly Ryan Company. Emmett Rounds runs a service station. Ben Ray has a grocery store on the edge of town. Philip Magnuson, manager of the Lutheran Publishing House. Lester Wheeler, manager of the Safeway store. Harry Sorensen, partner in a feed store. The Reverend J.D. Johnson, Seventh-day Adventist Church, and Martin Coor, who runs a feed store and granary. These are the men who govern Blair. After business, Ray opens the meeting to comments, petitions, and problems from the floor. Anyone in Blair or from the surrounding farms may bring their problems directly to the council. Government is not remote in our town. Here, everyone takes part. Among other things, the council sees to it that the city parks are maintained. Everyone in and around Blair enjoys relaxing, picnicking, and playing in the parks provided. Blair not only provides relaxation and the means for entertainment, but also protection. Gordon Vinton is fire chief of the Voluntary Fire Department. His father, R.E. Vinton, also served on the fire department and has been a member of the city council and has served his town in many ways, thus helping it to grow and develop. Mr. Vinton has the Chevrolet and Oldsmobile agency in Blair. He started his business here in 1929, and in 1945, his two sons, Gordon and Keith, came into the business with him as partners. Arnold Hill and Rocky Christopher are two of Vinton's line mechanics. They handle just about everything in the line of repairs, from fixing and installing radiators, as they do here, to front-end aligning, wheel balancing, and all kinds of motor work. Walt Peterson handles the sales department at Vinton's. He was on the three-man committee that was primarily responsible for the successful 4th of July celebration. Just as Walt knows his cars, Gene Flynn knows his Holsteins. Gene runs a dairy farm on the outskirts of town. His herd of homestead-bred Holsteins is one of about 150 dairy farms around Blair. Washington County altogether sends between $500,000 and $1 million worth of milk into Omaha and Council Bluffs every year. Gene himself sends about 600,000 pounds of milk each year. Gene keeps his milking barn scrupulously clean and does milking by machine. He's taking care of Minnie Num 1, the grandma of the herd, who was given more than 75 tons of milk in her life. Gene is a member of the Dairy Herd Improvement Association. He usually has 50 to 60 cows on test at all times. That is, 50 to 60 that he is milking. Because of modern production methods, butterfat content is kept high, and the herd averages 415 pounds of butterfat per cow per year. Minnie Num 1's calf weighed 135 pounds at birth, which is unusually large. Because of his great weight, he still has trouble staying on his feet a day and a half after birth. Most calves are unsteady for just the first few hours. A brood of a different kind on Stork's farm is that of spring pigs, over 140 of them. Most farmers around Blair keep a few pigs, mostly Poland China. They were all fathered by a registered Poland China, which was raised on the 4-H project by Gary Stork. For some farmers, hog raising is their primary project, but on the whole, sales of hogs are secondary to those of beef cattle in Washington County. People from the farm areas are constantly coming to our town. The adults may come for an evening's recreation or for buying purposes. The teenagers come in to go to the high school. The school building has been enlarged year after year to take care of more and more students from town and country. And the people come to the bank also. This is a big part of every farmer's life. He comes here for loans for financing new buildings and implements, the constant improvements that go into modern farms, and profits from crops are kept safe. They know they'll receive sound advice at the Washington County Bank. They can be certain of finding friends and assistance, for this is the bank with a smile. Tellers Gus Kronberg, Todd Solomon, and Larry McMillan are familiar faces around Blair. They help make the financial transactions of the bank's customers easier. Starting with deposits of $148,000 in July of 1933, they've increased to the present $4.5 million. The bank offers complete services for farms, businesses, and private citizens. Helen Rasmussen was Princess, Nebraska in 1951. Barbara Gilbert takes a photo by Recordac of every item leaving the bank so that valuable papers can be replaced quickly if lost or destroyed. In Blair, with industry as well as farms to serve, the bank is an important part of the town and a real factor in its growth and development. Stan Bednar, Vice President of the Washington County Bank, greets J.W. Young. Stan is a member of the Chamber of Commerce and is always ready to lend a helping hand when community work is to be done. The Chamber of Commerce sponsors band concerts throughout the summer. People come to Blair by the thousands to hear the music on Sunday night in the park. In the winter, programs are held in the high school auditorium. Blair supports its band enthusiastically and with good reason, for conductor Al Rembold is everybody's friend. He's built the band up to a really fine one. When Al first came here, he soon had the active support of everyone in town and in surrounding areas. None of these youngsters could play an instrument before he came. Al taught each of them himself. He starts them off individually, and as soon as they can play well enough, he puts them in the second band. After they've had plenty of experience playing with others, they go into the big 65-piece high school band. They play at football games and fairs, traveling all over the surrounding territory, playing for other towns as well. They have had a superior rating at the regional state contest, and in the last 4 years, they have won the contest 3 times. Quality like that rates the kind of support Blair gives its band. One day last year, the Chamber of Commerce collected $2,700 in 3 hours on Blair's Main Street for uniforms for the band. One of Blair's biggest success stories is that of Kelly Ryan. During the war, he worked in the steel mills of Omaha and went to machinist school there. His farm background and intimate knowledge of farmers' needs, combined with technical know-how, added up to a few new ideas in farm implements. He came back to Blair, opened a small plant, and began making trailway elevators. Steel sheets are bent into the main trough on the 150-ton press. These men electrically weld the trough into one unit. Like his implements, Kelly designed his plant and every operation for simplicity, lack of confusion, and lack of extra steps. After the trough is completed, the elevator chain is laid in. Ryan's special genius is simplification and clean, streamlined design. He designs the products himself with the help of C.L. Anderson, another design engineer. They work out the tooling plan and break up the process of manufacture into a few simple steps. Farmers liked his first product so well that he has expanded rapidly. Instead of 8, he now employs 350 to 400 people and operates 3 plants, all at Blair. He has just introduced this bale elevator, demonstrated by Mr. Anderson. Farmers in this area are farm testing it for him now. Plans for full production are now underway. Ryan also turns out Army transport barges at his shipyard down the Missouri River. The river is navigable up to Sioux City and down to the Mississippi. It represents part of the transportation potential of Blair. Ryan's barge building may well prove to be the impetus needed. Filling the feeding troughs for cattle with the bunk feeder is a familiar sight in the farmyards around here. Farmers load silage, molasses, feed pellets, corn, anything they're using for feed, into the wagon. The bunk feeder mixes it and dishes it out to the waiting livestock. Farmers need versatile implements, equipment that can do many jobs, for there are many varied tasks to do around a farm. One implement that will do 2 or 3 jobs takes less storage space and less care than 2 or 3 individual ones. The bunk feeder can be detached, and the same wagon goes out to the field as a forage box. Farmers chop grass and grain right into it. Its power unloading bottom saves time when they take it back to the silo or barn for unloading. The manure spreading unit is also attached to the versatile wagon and taken out to restore fertilizer and minerals to fields which need them. Restoring such materials to land after harvest keeps the invaluable topsoil in good condition to supply even better food at next year's planting. Without healthy topsoil, good crops are impossible. This rake is driven by the ground. In other words, the pressure of the prongs against the ground turns the raking wheels. The rakes are mounted separately so they can be used on rough ground or irrigated areas. Blair is a farm town, and since its birth, it has been the farmers and their trade, their families and their needs that have made it what it is today. Now, with highway traffic swelling and industry moving in, Blair is on the threshold of a new development. But no matter how large the town grows, it will never outgrow nor forget its friends, the farmers, who have nourished it and helped it to grow. An invitation is always extended to you to get to know us and our town. Blair, Nebraska, USA. This is our town. This is our town, Blair, Nebraska, USA. Yes, this is our town, another of the many along the Lincoln Highway. The 3,000 miles of this highway span our continent from coast to coast. Out of Iowa into Nebraska, we cross the Blair Bridge over the wide Missouri here in the farming heart of America. Blair welcomes us to Nebraska, offering rest, refreshment, and friendship to travelers and residents. People have crossed the Missouri at this point for more than a century. The men and women who found and settled this land followed the trails of the Indians. They always took a level route, keeping to the lowland because their oxen, horses, and mules had to pull the heavy wagons laden with household goods. For this reason, John I. Blair laid a branch of the Chicago and Northwestern Railroad here, built the railroad bridge, and established Blair as one of the centers of his railroad lines. For a while, the rail bridge and a ferry service provided sufficient transportation. Then, with the advent of automobiles, more highways and bridges became necessary. Blair Bridge on the Lincoln Highway, which is U.S. Highway 30, was opened June 30th, 1929. Within 6 or 7 years, the bridge will be free because the tolls will be charged only until it is paid for. It saves much city traffic and extra miles of driving. The travelers enjoy the beauty of the journey past green and golden fields. The lazy brown river flows beneath the bridge on its way to join its great sister, the Mississippi. Hardly a day passes that some traveler doesn't stop to take a picture of the view from the bridge, looking out over the river and the quiet hills. This is the heart of our country, where life is peaceful and free. Scenes like this are familiar to Blair and typical of our town's surroundings. Reed O'Hanlon manages the bridge, keeping it repaired and checking records. Day in and day out, people come through Blair, a mile west of the bridge. At the east end of the business district, they pass the Nebraska port of entry, where trucks must stop to be checked. Don Fear pauses to talk with Ben Ray, a councilman and also director of the Blair Airport, another important development in Blair's transportation system. The Nebraska port of entry sign is painted on the side of Don Fear's garage, Washington County Motors. When Don came home from service, he opened his garage to help keep the cars rolling on the Lincoln Highway. Along with the garage, he has the Chrysler Plymouth Agency in Blair. Next to the garage is his used car lot, where the cars wait for their prospective owners to take them off the lot. In checking a car, the efficiency of the brakes is a must. The Washington County Motors assure their customers of thorough brake service. Don's major source of business is the highway traffic. He has installed many devices to give the travelers good service. Bill Borg analyzes motors for the Washington County garage with the help of a Sun motor analyzer. This is very interesting work for him. The bank of dials and indicators on the portable machine tell him exactly what is wrong, and he does the rest. Down the street from the garage, L.L. Snyder runs the Nebraska-Iowa supply, doing his part to keep traffic rolling. The parts department of his business now offers tire retread service. Retreading resembles tire manufacture in many ways. Clarence King inspects the tire carcass on a machine that spreads the tire out flat, lighting it from all angles so that defects become prominent. The quality of a retread depends greatly upon a good tire carcass as a base. The tire is buffed down to proper measurements. Clarence checks the progress of buffing with calipers, continuing until the tire is down to the desired thickness and the surface is smooth. After buffing, the tire goes to the drying kettle, where moisture is removed. It comes back to Lyle Rosenbaum, who applies a triple coat of rubber cement. When the cement is dry, Lyle rolls a new tread onto the tire with an electrically powered machine, which applies the tread smoothly, evenly, and tightly. Since the war, tire retreading has developed into a science. It adds thousands of miles to tires originally old and worn out. Proper balance is essential in a tire. Unbalanced tires do not wear well. After balancing, Lyle puts the tire into the Heinz vulcanizing mold, where the new tread is vulcanized securely onto the carcass at 298 degrees Fahrenheit. Snyder's Royal Retread shop can handle almost every kind of tire, from the huge truck tires to the regular passenger car tires. Mr. Snyder sells a complete line of automotive parts, wholesale and retail. One of Blair's forward-looking businessmen since 1921, Mr. Snyder is ex-president of the Lincoln Highway Association and is still active in the organization. Thus, he is one of the men who sees to it that travelers along the highway are well served and that the highway is kept up to the best standards of modern roads. Coming into the main street of Blair, tourists find a friendly town, offering them car service, refreshing meals, and relaxation. Kurt Klein is typical of the travelers who stop for a while in Blair. Kurt works in California. He and his family are returning from their New York vacation by way of the Lincoln Highway. Young's Cafe has become a gathering place for businessmen of Blair, as well as a stopping place for tourists. People from nearly all of the 48 states have stopped for a pleasant meal. When they started, the Youngs employed only 2 people. Now they have 7 waitresses besides the cook and kitchen help. Their cook has been with them ever since they started. A number of people come here regularly from surrounding areas. Mr. and Mrs. Young are proud of their grandchildren, Michael and Mitchell Compton, and little Marcia Therese. Mrs. Compton is the Young's daughter. Like other people in Blair, sons and daughters who have moved away from town come back frequently to visit. The sign that denotes good food in a relaxing atmosphere, Young's Cafe. But food for the soul is as important as food for the body. Blair is truly a crossroads of America. Highway 30 runs east and west, crossing Highway 73, running north and south into Omaha. Access to Blair is very simple. Transportation is no problem here. Blair encourages not only passenger travel, but industrial and commercial shipping as well. And the rail service is very adequate, too. Blair began with the railroad. Now the M&O, as well as the Chicago and Northwestern, carry freight and passengers to and from the town. Plenty of good commercial land with trackage is available. Thus, more and more goods may be loaded right at the manufacturing site. Such properties are handled by Geyer and Hansen Real Estate Office, where affable Paul V. Hansen is always ready with help and advice for clients seeking good commercial or residential properties. Otto Stave of the Lutheran Publishing House consults with him. Neither Paul Hansen or Lyle Geyer are in too much of a hurry to stop and chat or joke. Lyle is very proud of his shovel. He purchased it for $1 in Arlington from a man who was shoveling snow with it. The unusual feature of it is that it was cut from a single log. It is one solid piece of wood and rather a prized possession and a point of curiosity for him and his friends. Whether Messrs. Geyer and Hansen are arranging a contract or discussing the improvement of property, business in Blair is done without the strain and tension of the big city, though it is just as efficient and careful. Blair has some fine homes for sale for those who desire larger or newer places to live. The Paul Schroeder home is a good example. In recent years, a great deal of building has taken place. The result has been many new and lovely homes in Blair. The Lauritsen home, built in 1952, is another beautiful Blair residence. Electric power for these homes comes from the municipal light plant. 4 diesel engines supply a total of 3,005 kilowatts. Even when the largest engine is shut down, there is ample power for business, industrial, and home needs. The peak load in Blair runs about 1,500 kilowatts, so there is plenty left over for the new industry and commerce. Water is pumped up from wells to settling basins and reservoirs, which deliver it to the city areas at 100 pounds pressure. Tests revealed adequate natural fluorine in the water. Harry Morris manages both the light plant and the water supply, as well as sewage and ice. All are municipally owned. Harry also purifies the water for the municipal swimming pool, one of the state's cleanest. Manager of the pool, Gus Nelson, and Harry boast that Blair's youngsters swim in water as pure as drinking water, and by frequent tests, their boasts are based on fact. The Blair pool has won prizes for the cleanest pool in the United States. That's why people come not only from town, but from the territory for miles around. The pool is constructed for safety, with shallow water on 3 sides. For the little children, there's a wading and splashing pool. The pool also provides added safety and security by having lifeguards present at all times to take care of any emergencies which may arise. Sheila Templeton helps to make certain that none of the youngsters try to climb over the fence and that all goes well in the pool. She tries to prevent unnecessary roughness and thoughtless play that may result in accidents. The swimmers and the people of Blair are grateful for their watchful care. Bill Smith is the instructor in morning classes for beginning, intermediate, and advanced swimmers, and in evening classes for beginning, adult, and life-saving. Uncounted lives have been saved by these classes, which are conducted according to highest Red Cross standards. Boys like Jerry Thompson and Bill Smith have become expert divers and swimmers under the pool program. Yes, Blair is a good place to live, a safe place to live, and our town is building fast. Since 1948, 124 new homes have been built. Over $1 million has been spent on commercial and residential building. Because it was once rolling prairie grassland, all Blair is very proud of its trees. Each one was brought here, set and tended to provide the cool tree-lined avenues that greet the travelers today. The residents, too, have seen to it that their lawns are not without the beauty and comfort that trees provide. Many of our homes are built with concrete and concrete blocks supplied by Blair Ready Mix. The concrete for Mayor Roy Hansen's home is being poured here. J.W. Sutton, owner of Blair Ready Mix, was with the State Highway Department for 25 years as a construction engineer. At his plant beside the railroad tracks, his trucks come in to load with sand, cement, and water. Derricks lift sand from the huge pile into the tall hopper, which pours it into the trucks. A new cement storage system is being installed, which will handle cement in bulk. Men work on drainage ditches to keep cement dry. They also make hollow stone blocks and modular blocks that come in sizes needed to fit corners in door and window frames without breaking. Lyle Husk presses out blocks with a machine that packs the concrete into shape. It is then left to harden. The stock of blocks depletes rapidly with all the building going on in Blair. Mr. Sutton is one of the few federal and state licensed professional engineers not actively engaged in engineering. However, he enjoys supplying building materials for his many friends. A great many people prefer concrete for their building purposes. It is especially suited to the purpose of modern architecture. It can be placed in forms while in a plastic condition and made to assume almost any shape. It can be pressed into molds to make simple building blocks or shaped into highly ornamental forms. This artificial stone is made by binding together sand and gravel or crushed stone with cement. It is used in the building of barn foundations, grain silos, sidewalks, bridges, homes, roads and highways, commercial buildings, and construction companies, to name a few. The Corshaw Construction Company of Blair uses thousands of dollars worth of concrete each year in its construction projects. Simon Corshaw came to Blair from Denmark. He founded the construction company in 1939. Since then, he has been building residences, commercial buildings, bridges, and municipal buildings, not only in Blair, but all over the Midwest. When a construction company like Corshaw's is hired to do a job, the first step is to thoroughly go over the plans submitted to them, or working with their client to draw up plans that will be suitable. Next, the property is surveyed in order to have data to meet building problems. When the project is completed on paper, construction crews go out from Blair and start work. Usually, the company sends a small crew of supervisors. The rest of the workers are hired near the site of the project. This is necessary because of the far-flung operations Corshaw carries on. Often new methods must be devised to meet the special problems or to simplify the work. This new type of masonry has never been used before. It is going into the Columbian Grade School at Plattsmouth. Columbian is one of the 3 new schools Corshaw is building in Plattsmouth, along with a new auditorium for the high school. Larry Apker is supervisor of all construction for Corshaw. Since he has been with the company, it has expanded operations to California on the west and Chicago on the east. They may be building churches and schools in Nebraska and Iowa, dismantling a bridge in California, constructing pipelines in Kansas, all at the same time. Thus, Corshaws are helping to build our country as well as Blair. During the war, they joined the war effort, doing a great deal of construction for the Engineering Corps of the Army. For this, they received praise for ingenuity and persistence in getting the job done in the face of seemingly unsurmountable obstacles. Blair, too, is proud of the buildings Corshaw has built for it, like the new West School. The new Good Shepherd Lutheran Home for the Aged was built by the Danish Lutheran Church in Blair to provide a haven for older folks. The new Methodist Church was designed by one of America's most foremost architects. The new churches, the new homes, the new industries all mark Blair as a growing town and a modern town. The Lutheran Publishing House is another of Blair's modern buildings. The homes and buildings of Blair are also protected from fire. Blair has one of the lowest fire insurance rates for any town of its size in the nation. Since the fire department is purely a voluntary one, those who are part of it deserve extra credit for doing such an important and efficient job. The men of the volunteer fire department are on call at all times, both night and day, and from the way they come pouring into the firehouse when the siren sounds, you can see why they usually get to a fire before the last notes of the siren have died away. Often the trucks pull up to the scene of the fire before the first blast of the siren has finished. These men are not paid. They pitch in to keep the town safe from fire out of goodwill and pride in their town and love for its homes and buildings. All of them live in town, go to meetings once a month, and carry out drills and inspections regularly. New volunteers are trained by lectures and demonstrations, but their real training comes when they start working with the equipment. Most of the men go to the 3-day courses given by the state at Grand Island, and each member keeps sharp and ready by constant drilling and instruction. Fire Chief Gordon Vinton, chosen by the firemen and then appointed by the City Council, manages the department. He keeps the instruction program going and directs operations at the scene of a fire. Funds for equipment and operation are paid by the City of Blair. However, rural areas need not fear for lack of protection in case of fire. Blair's voluntary fire department will dash out to rural areas on fire calls as well as calls within the city limits. Cooperation is the keynote in Blair. The people work together on all kinds of projects, and our town gets things done. For instance, at the swimming pool, the Blair Federation of Women's Clubs sponsors a class for crippled children. They have kept it going for 3 years. This year, the Washington County Polio Fund is helping them. Mrs. Daniel O'Hanlon, who is chairman of the project, has charge. She and the many women who assist come down to meet the children, help them get into their swimming suits, calm their fears, and introduce them to the instructors. All the instructors work under Bill Bennett and are junior lifeguards. Shirley Bowes gives little David Furman his first introduction to the water. Bill and Mrs. O'Hanlon choose instructors who love children and swimming and have lots of patience. Often, these little polio victims, unsure of themselves on firm ground, are afraid of water and hesitate to go in. Right now, Curtis Holstein doesn't want any part of the water. But with patient care and quiet, easy handling, it isn't long before these tots are splashing and kicking and having a fine time in the little pool with a fountain that's just right for the beginning youngsters. Then the big problem is to get them out at the end of the hour before they tire themselves with the excitement of learning to swim. As they learn, they gain confidence in their ability to move, and soon their walking is improved too. Swimming develops the muscles weakened by polio, and water buoys them up softly and strongly, giving free play to weak arms and legs. Bill and Mrs. O'Hanlon hold these classes every Saturday morning for 8 weeks in the summer. Many children have learned to swim who could not have learned under other circumstances. When these boys came here for the first time last year, they were very frightened of water, but not now. These classes do wonders for morale as well as for muscles. The boys are splashing and jumping and playing as though they had never known a day of illness. After swimming, Mrs. Grace Brewster serves milk and cookies to happy, tired youngsters. She's a registered nurse and is always on hand at the pool when the class is in session. A doctor in town is on call as well in case of accidents. But so far, nothing serious has happened during the classes. Usually, the youngsters don't even need help with dressing. They've learned so well how to manage themselves. Another example of cooperation in Blair is the 4th of July parade. People from town and the outlying farm areas come and children bring their pets for the big pet parade. This year's winners are certainly proud as they parade their pets before the crowd. The pets are on floats, which the children made themselves. The members of the Chamber of Commerce sponsored this 4th of July program, working together to make it a great day for everyone in the area. Having a pony is a particular joy for these youngsters, especially when they get a chance to show it off rodeo style. Almost any nice evening in Blair, you'll find boys out flying model airplanes. Most of them are Explorer Scouts, who are out experimenting with and building the planes under Scotty Robeson's direction. Scotty has won speed trophies with his planes and passes his knowledge on to the boys. Thus, in Blair, as all over America, youngsters learn by having fun. They learn the technical skills, design and engineering methods, principle of aerodynamics, and all the scientific lore that makes up the technical superiority of America. Here on the American Legion Memorial Field, they have plenty of space to try out their latest models, and put them through their paces in mock combat plays. The planes are beauties, and the boys handle them very well. This field was paid for by the people of Blair and those on its surrounding farms. They bought war bonds during the war, and these provided the field, built at the war's close. By so doing, they helped their town and the war effort at the same time. The field is now managed by a volunteer committee who works hard to keep it in shape. Earl Long serves as the committee's president, and Moose Zimmerman is custodian. He keeps it in condition for the many sports events and civic programs which are held here at the field. The 4th of July celebration is always one of the biggest yearly events in Blair. However, this is only one of the many projects, large and small, in which everyone wholeheartedly participates and cooperates. The air parade of planes is truly inspiring, and the barrage of firecrackers which follows is a real extravaganza. Only a town in which its citizens work together and build together can produce displays like this, sparkling against the stars, a true symbol of Blair. Yes, this is our town, a crossroads of America and a vital rail center as well. Ours is a town constantly progressing, always growing. It's working together that has made Blair such a pleasant, sincere place to be. Ours is a town of highways and growth, of friendship and happy living. We invite you to join us again next week for more pleasant journeys through Blair, Nebraska, USA. This is our town.